Good afternoon, classmates. Here to talk about equity and equality. My thoughts on what we were required to do today for our discussion with what we found. Uh, I agreed with Kozel. I do believe that funding needs to come from some other avenue other than property taxes, especially in the example he used about East St. Louis's soil and the air pollution and the people moving out since it's such a poor place to live. No one wants to be there. No one wants to pay property tax on land that's no good or an area. So that's why those people have not gone there and gone to live there, and the people that are stuck there due to their situation. I believe that it needs to change, like he says, but nobody is willing to bring up that, or it's willing to be shot down by other people. That was something I wanted to mention in my paper, but didn't take the time to do so, about how those that will say, well, I don't want to take it from a progressive income tax, I want my money or whatever. That's what I'm afraid that those people would say. And what Wilson was saying about presenting an opportunity for those that live in the inner city, I agree as well. I think we need to do something in terms of career academies is what I suggested in my paper. We need to do something like that so that there is an opportunity to improve their situations. We see that with the example he provided in the interview for Frontline, is that they took that entire sixth grade class from the South Side and they prospered when put in a different situation than the one they were currently in. And some things that I felt like does not help is that, first of all, with Wilson's idea of helping those inner city schools and those people in the inner city, the thing that is frustrating is that, yes, we want reform, we want policy to change to help those people, but unfortunately, only one voice is heard. The example I gave was that one of those neighborhoods that he mentions in the interview is in District 1 in Illinois, and only one representative takes up Washington Park as well as District 1, which stretches from the south side all the way down towards Joliet. So we're looking at one person representing a large group, and like Wilson talks about in the interview, more than a few voices need to be heard. Those people that are educated, they need to have their voices heard, or nothing is going to be done, and we're going to just see a continuation of the trend of racism or racial bias towards those who are able, those who compete, those who are educated, as opposed to those who are jobless or the poor working. Like he said, there were three different classes in the black community, which were those who could compete or be educated, those that were working but poor, and those who were jobless. And he's afraid that that middle group will get shoved down into the poor group. So voices need to be heard. We live in a democracy. We need to have voices heard. So he urged people that were in the black community, that are educated, that can compete for jobs. They need to make their voices heard for those in their communities. I also believe that I found an article written by David Serrata in 2013 that focused about school reform, since everybody's concerned that teachers are not doing their jobs, public schools are failing. However, they turn a blind eye to poverty as a reason for all this, that we have seen in the Coleman report. If we have taken our Intro to Ed Admin class, that was in one of our recent chapters, and in this chapter, in this time period, we're talking about the Coleman report, about how students' background, their family, socioeconomic status, the people they hang around with, have a greater effect on their achievement than whatever the school can produce or what the school does for them. So why aren't we paying attention to that? Why are we combating that instead of we're combating the schools and saying it's their fault? So that's why I feel like we need to actually look at the factors that are presenting this case for those people, and not to turn a blind eye to it. And finally, we're talking about, Kozel mentioned about parents who are kind of protecting or preventing their students or their children from being a part of democracy. They pull them out of districts. They allow them to, there's a choice in what school they go to. I feel like we're taking away that opportunity for choice. Students can't really change their social standing. Parents can pull their kids, but they really can't choose to get out of it for those that are still stuck behind. So we need to do whatever we can to improve those situations so that the opportunities can be given. But that's necessary if we want situations to get better. So that's why I feel like we need to have those career academies to give them opportunities. We need to look at how schools are funded. I'm a fan of that progressive income tax for those people that are making more money than maybe the rest that need to be taxed. But we need voices to be heard. Democracy needs to be actually democracy and not turning a blind eye to these racist views or this trend that has continued. And then finally, we were asked about how do we think Obama's election impacted diversity and equity. I know that most of my look into this was based on when he was running for election and how Wilson really took to Obama, not just based on race or not based on where he lived or what was going on, but just because Obama presented himself as a framework for this stuff to be addressed when he would be in office. Case in point, universal health care. Squires wrote in our essay in 2013 where he talks about Wilson saw a need for universal health care as well as other things like the disappearance of jobs and whatnot. And Obama, of course, wanted to make sure that health care was affordable, hence why Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, was put into place. And both these gentlemen, Wilson and Obama, also believe that while we need to improve the situations of the people in those areas, we also need to look at personal responsibility, because it's up to the person to do what they're supposed to be doing. They can't just let the behavior of what their surroundings present on them. So that's why they were big proponents for that. I believe I read an article when we had that African American section, the chapter earlier in the unit, where they talked about it shouldn't be just a handout. It needs to be personal responsibility for getting the wealth. Was a big quote that somebody from the inner cities were stating. I wish I would have had that here, but that's something that stuck out to me. There's pride there, and they want to make sure that they can do it themselves. So I definitely believe that, we live in a democracy, but that doesn't always lead to opportunity. So we need to make sure that we're doing what we can to improve opportunities for those people in lower socioeconomic status. We're looking at the inner city. We're looking at poor, the poverty stricken. So we need to do what we can. Voices need to be heard. Thank you.